Photo illustration by Tracy Ma. The New York Times. Ari Luyendijk Jr., ABC. Craig showed in there are two ways to watch The Bachelor. The first is, in Bachelor parlance, to be swept away on the journey, and suspend any disbelief that suitors are here for the right reasons. For most viewers, though, the only way to sit through a 2-hour episode is to accept the polyamorous spectacle as one big social experiment. It's hard to imagine that the millions of intelligent women and men who tune into the show are sold on its premise. Yet many of them consumed 6 hours of Bachelor programming per week this month. That's not including the time they spent reading recaps, listening to Bachelor-adjacent podcasts, or scrolling through contestants' Instagram feeds. Just as the internet can act as a very dangerous political echo chamber, it can also function as a Bachelor Hall of Mirrors, wherein the franchise's offshoots become unavoidable. In turn, immersing oneself in Bachelor Nation can be accidental, or it can be a completely intentional, journalistic pursuit. I am watching 29 women compete for a Bachelor whom America did not want, the human equivalent of a beige driving moccasin, a man Kareem Abdul-Jabbar characterized as shallow, bland, stiff and inarticulate, though he added a disclaimer, he didn't know the guy personally. Ari Luyendijk Jr., a race car driver turned real estate agent, may soon pick a fiancé on television, after narrowing a pool of mostly white 20-somethings on Season 22 to 3 women. In the season premiere there were 4 Laurens, now we're down to 1. There was a Bachelor first, a woman with a pixie cut. The lack of diversity isn't new. The first African-American lead, Rachel Lindsay, was cast in 2017, a whopping 15 years after The Bachelor had its premiere. On NPR, Linda Holmes described the franchise as a metaphor for white privilege. Talent hops from one Bachelor program to another. It's a story almost entirely of a white person picking the next white person, she said, and of that white person then picking another white person, and everybody shrugging and saying, I just went with my gut. I'm late to watching this season, but I can't say I missed much. The Bachelor is a self-sustaining ecosystem with few surprises. Social media has only made the show easier to spin off. While it's live on television, the Bachelor faithful go on Twitter to analyze the relationships and dissect manipulation by producers. Watching the commentary can be more fun than watching the show. And then there's Instagram. I tap through photos, starting with the fan favorite Ashley Yaconetti, known as Crying Girl. The list of accounts she follows is a pipeline of Bachelor contestants, and I absent-mindedly burn through 45 minutes. Here, the contestants gain what they seemed to have auditioned for: internet fame. Many alumni pepper their feeds with sponsored content, advertisements for products that purport to improve lives, the meal kit delivery service HelloFresh Detox, concoctions like flat tummy tea, whatever a FabFitFun box is. Each contestant sells a lifestyle. She is happy. She is effortlessly chic. She is usually on vacation. She is what the show implies a woman is supposed to be: white, affluent and hyper-feminine. I scroll through podcasts created by fans and contestants and eventually land on Bachelor Party, hosted by Juliette Littman, of The Ringer. Her guest is a juicy get, the ABC executive Rob Mills, who shares that one of Mr. Luyendijk's 25-year-old suitors has previously been engaged twice. Then I read Bachelor blogs en route to the taping of another podcast, Here to Make Friends, produced by HuffPost. The hosts, Emma Gray and Claire Fallon, spend about an hour recapping an episode with Kayla Quinn, a contestant envied for her bouncy, shiny hair. Ms. Quinn, a focal point of misleading editing on the spin-off Bachelor in Paradise, is reserved and gracious, and asks if I'd like to wear her faux fur coat for a photo. As she helps me into each sleeve, I silently acknowledge that I am the kind of person who is a bit starstruck by reality television personalities. I ask the hosts why we binge on The Bachelor. The 24-hour news cycle is overwhelming, Ms. Gray says, so there's something very satisfying about watching a show based in an alternate reality. The stakes feel high, but they're actually low. The franchise is also appealing, Ms. Fallon says, because it taps into our basic desire for human connection. It's nice to imagine that love can be this simple. As I stock up on wine for an evening Bachelor viewing party, I listen to Mr. Luyendik's favorite tunes on Spotify. Then, at home, I bake cupcakes from a recipe on Ms. Quinn's blog while watching the series premiere of Bachelor Pad. I also arrange a platter of deli meat inspired by the contestant Chad Johnson, and scan stories on Snapchat and posts on Off the Vine, a Facebook group started by the former Bachelorette Caitlin Bristow. The content never ends. The limit does not exist. If a woman for some reason wants to be on The Bachelor, she can fill out an application that relies largely on photos and video. The season 16 winner, Courtney Robertson, advises women to save producers time by wearing a bikini in the photo. That reminds me, it's time for my Bachelor workout. Exercises are tied to episode plot points. A date card shows up. 10 jumping jacks. The Bachelor kisses a woman. 10 mountain climbers. Feeling uninspired, I switched to Crystal Nielsen's YouTube channel for an 18-minute total body workout. Ms. Nielsen is the villain on Mr. Luyendik's season, so America doesn't like her. 11 minutes in, I dislike her, too. I'm out of breath, my legs are on fire, but they're still not hot enough to lounge poolside at Via de la Vina, better known as the Bachelor Mansion. Stephen Carbone is a thorn in ABC's side. Mr. Carbone has run the website RealitySteve.com for years, and since season 13 of The Bachelor, he has spoiled the show's endings. He now records a weekly podcast too, and holds an annual fan appreciation party at the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. The show's creators do not acknowledge Mr. Carbone, aside from threatening him with legal action. But what would they say if they did? They can't say, "That guy doesn't know what he's talking about," Mr. Carbone says, and they can't say, "Oh, he's right." Would Mr. Carbone call himself a fan? The fun part for me is while it's filming and spoiling it while it's happening. When he watches in retrospect, he says, "I can't believe anything out of these people's mouths. It's hard to trust what contestants say on camera because editors can recut dialogue in interviews using a trade technique known as frankenbiting." Amy Kaufman, a Los Angeles Times reporter and the author of Bachelor Nation, knows all about this. For the book, she consulted former producers and contestants who told all, including the following: sleep-deprived or intoxicated contestants are taken into a sort of solitary confinement for questioning. Some say what the producer wants simply to end an interview. Chris Bukowski, a 5-time contestant, was pressured to propose to a woman he didn't like very much. He didn't go through with it. Claire Crowley, a 4-time contestant, was made to appear as if she confided in a raccoon. "I wouldn't advise the smartest, most independent-minded friend I have to come on this show," she says. "I don't think you can control what happens." Sean O'Leary is part of a Bachelor fantasy league in which he and 20 coworkers at a public relations firm in Virginia try to predict the semi-predictable. The participants choose contestants they think will advance to the next episode. Bragging rights, and maybe a gift card, are at stake. The brackets are taped to a conference room wall. Mr. O'Leary says, most people when they visit the office, it's the first thing they notice. Adam Hoover's league is a tad more complicated. Like the NFL, The Bachelor has its own language. First impression rose. One-on-ones, hometowns, fantasy suites. Points are awarded for all in Mr. Hoover's league, which he and his wife run with another couple. At the end of every season, we say if so-and-so is The Bachelor, we might not do this again, Mr. Hoover says. And we always do. I serve contestant-endorsed cheese pasta and cheese pizza, along with plenty of wine, to my Bachelor support group, which has convened for the premiere of The Bachelor Winter Games. We end up talking through the games, stopping only to acknowledge how cheesy the meal and the premise are. The show finished a distant second in the ratings to the actual Olympics. Unreal, a lifetime drama that takes place behind the scenes of a Bachelor look-alike called Everlasting, was a show I'd never watched until now. It focuses on the manipulation contestants endure at the hands of producers and exaggerates what we see in the Bachelor franchise, but not beyond recognition. Sarah Gertrude Shapiro, a co-creator of Unreal, was a producer of The Bachelor. Part of her job during that time, she told The New Yorker, was to get contestants to open up, and to give them terrible advice, and to deprive them of sleep. Bachelor contestants aren't allowed to read while filming. A former contestant, Ashley Spivey, said that producers confiscated her copy of Life of Pi even before cameras were rolling. Now she runs a 6,000-person book club on Facebook. Currently, the club's members are reading An American Marriage by Tayari Jones, but Ms. Spivey suggested that I break up my Bachelor thon with The Light We Lost, which explores a relationship shaped by outside events, a love story nothing like The Bachelor. After an hour of blissful escapism, I turned The Bachelor switch back on and crack open Single State of Mind by the former contestant Andy Dorfman. I can't relate to much in Ms. Dorfman's book about post-reality TV life, but I laugh when she is shocked to learn, while apartment hunting, that for one place in the West Village, she must earn 90 times the monthly rent. Welcome to New York, Ms. Dorfman. I am at the zenith of Bachelor Nation, but I have 27 think pieces and a parody called Burning Love on my agenda. I'll save delving into an on-set UAL misconduct allegation for another day, because that deserves the kind of thought and attention that is rarely present past midnight. It occurs to me that if I sleep, I may dream about The Bachelor, and that technically I'd be consuming Bachelor content. I have a nightmare about writing